Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining us for another edition of the StarrCast podcast, where we talk all things wellness business. So, wellness is the word of the day, of course. It's all we talk about, but we sometimes think about it from a spa perspective. And today we're going to reel back and look at the broader aspects of wellness that touch many people through hospitality. So many people are traveling, even now, today, in the crazy times, spending time in hotels. They really want wellness to be around them. And so I've invited an expert in that field to join us, and we're so lucky to have him, Adam Mogilonsky, partner with Hotel Mogul Consulting. He's been a hotel consultant for many years, and he will fill us in on his background and how he got here. But thank you again for joining us, Adam.
Yeah, great to be here. Thanks for having me, Lisa. And of course, when we first met in Milan last
Right.
year, the whole thing that should be noted to start off with about embedding wellness while traveling is that the rigors of travel is inherently bad for wellness. If you think about it, you're waking up to do flights, your sleep schedule gets jumbled up.
Your eating is not what you like to have.
Exactly. That's what I was about to get to in Milan, right? You have all that dessert table there and
Mhm.
you're trying to have a meeting right next to it, and the temptation of just, like right there. And it's like somebody's literally delivering gelato to your table, right? This is
So
the
true.
ironical part of having a wellness conference in Italy is that the food is just too good, right?
You're surrounded by pasta, pizza, gelato, all the things we probably don't want to partake much of, but we moderated, right?
Yeah, moderated, but even then, if you're talking about where is wellness going from a longevity perspective, the latest evidence is saying that very more than one glass of wine per day is harmful, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
where do you find that balance? But the overall trend of people understanding this, understanding the damage and the toll that travel takes, and they want wellness, they want recovery, they want to stay healthy while they experience the world.
Very true. Well, we're going to dive into that, Adam. But first, I think it would be good for the listeners to hear how you got into your role. I know that many people that listen work in wellness, but many want to and don't know the path. And the fact is, none of us had a linear path into the roles we have. And I know you started as a life sciences major. So how did you end up here? Tell us a little bit about that.
So, of course, yes, life sciences, another word for pre-med. So, at one point, I was destined to be a doctor. And of course, I'm, a Virgo, analytical mind, high school, doing well on biology, math skills. So everyone's like, play to your strengths, do this, do that, do this. But being a doctor, of course, has very little creativity involved, and something intrinsically just didn't really rub me the right way. I can tell you that offline, but it just didn't rub me the right way in terms of where medicine was. And throughout my undergraduate, I was volunteering in hospitals. I did my MCATs, did them fine without, didn't lose any sleep over it, but then something just didn't rub me the right way. So didn't pursue that path, but still had the knowledge. Then got into personal training and physiotherapy, something a little bit more hands-on and functional or allopathic, you could say, and really loved that. But personal training and physiotherapy, it was a grind. Like you're working some days at age 21, you're working 6 a.m. till 10 p.m. to try and fit people in. And
That's a long day, especially if you're popular, which I'm sure you were.
yeah, like literally 10 clients a day, fit them in, fit them in, fit them in. And of course, around that to manage what you measure, you have to be recording where people are in their plan and where their specific injuries and getting down to quantitative measures in order to show results over time, to periodize, as we say. So then that sort of dovetailed into the GFC, the Great Financial Crisis. And that's when, it became pretty hard to be your own salesperson as well as your administrator, as well as a physiotherapist. So got out of that and joined my father's hospitality and travel tourism marketing agency as an account executive. I nepotism, got a job with my dad, but starting from the bottom. Found a passion within there for the hospitality division, managing accounts and doing everything from public relations, marketing slash advertising slash creative design slash website, which was still an emerging thing at
Mhm.
that time, slash blog writing, which was an emerging thing in terms of the start of SEO, and then gradually moved upstream to account director, where then you start getting involved in strategy and you start understanding how things are interconnected.
Good.
And within that, you start visiting hotels. And our specialty was luxury hotels. So, of course, every hotel had a spa. And then it slowly became this whole thing where it's like, well, how are we going to get people to come if we don't have a spa? And then you start to understand the intrinsic relationship between wellness, well being, and getting guests to pay an ungodly amount for a night in a bed that they don't own.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah. And then so that progressed until my father and I sold that agency and then moved even further upstream into strategic advisory, working alongside owners to basically say, well, marketing and advertising is good, but we also had this background in finance. So we're dealing with finance, capital stacks, repositioning, property improvement plans, PIPs, brand selection, brand negotiation, and then wellness is a through line within all that because you have to have for any property a reason to visit. And if you don't have a spa, if you don't have wellness, then what reason to visit do you have for a lot of hotels? Some of them do. I mean, there are still hotels that are in cities that have a great restaurant, great F&B, great lobby bar, great rooftop bar. They don't need to necessarily have a spa if you're dealing with
Right.
corporate segment where you're getting people in for 1 to 3 nights. But destination resorts, luxury urban hotels, and even those same hotels where increasingly getting back to where we started about corporate travelers coming in and they have meetings from 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. on a flight the next day, and they have a spare 2 hours. Let's give them a wellness experience.
Yes, and let's keep the spa open past 8 p.m., but that we'll talk about that later. Adam, your work as a consultant and strategic advisor, is it more with existing properties that want to fine tune, or like my own consulting is sort of split between that and startups? Is it the same for you?
Yeah, it's always a split because there's only so many new hotels that are being built at a given time because there's only so much money to go around. There's only so many guests to go around. So you have to work with existing hotels and look to enhance their existing programs or to evolve them through what we call a repositioning or just some form of new program where we come in and go from conceptualization and market fit slash feasibility through to writing the SOPs and doing the training and developing the marketing plan and launch.
So I'm going to ask you a two-part question. For the new builds, when does wellness enter the conversation? And for the existing businesses, how often is wellness a topic that they want advice on?
So for new builds, wellness should enter as early as possible. It should be from the ground up. We want to build a XYZ with wellness, right? A WXYZ, right? It should enter as early as possible. The developments that tack it on, so to speak, they get nothing. They're laggards in all the trends, and then you launch a spa and you wonder why you get 10% utilization because the concept isn't interesting. You're struggling with labor because you haven't properly incentivized the team or source labor or found a good management partner or just doing anything interesting in the touchless wellness and all the new treatments that are coming along. Those are the ones that if it's an afterthought, you're blah. For the existing properties, it depends on who you're talking to because hotels have a problem of departmentalization and thereby compartmentalization. So somebody who's involved in the rooms revenue may not necessarily be incentivized to think about spa revenue, even though they intrinsically understand the relationship. Ditto for spa, they are incentivized to look at the spa, but not necessarily wellness through the eyes of F&B, i.e. nutrition, fitness center, i.e. movement, fitness, or rooms, i.e. sleep. So we would shoehorn wellness into any discussion we have with owners because it has to enter the picture in 2026 as a brand differentiator. And within the prospects of differentiating the brand, raising rate, getting new types of guests, raising occupancy, increasing ancillary revenues.
Perfect. So let's talk about what wellness means when you're a hotel, because it used to be, right? Oh, we've got the spa and it's down in the basement in the corner, and we've got our few rooms, and that is not really what it means today. Or are you seeing an evolution of that definition?
So, yes, we're seeing an evolution, but I just want to torture test that whole idea of the basement, just a few rooms, because with today's design principles around material selection and multi-sensorial activation, you can do a lot with a basement. Just from a lighting and a sound and a scent perspective, you can do a lot with a basement. You can do some pretty cool things on a very light footprint. And then as well, from the human aspect, that little basement where you maybe are short on labor, you can do things from the touchless wellness perspective, installing red light therapy, neurofeedback, biovoltaics, cryo, even if you have the MEP, the mechanical electrical plumbing, to do some thermal in there safely. There's tons you can do with a little basement space to
All right.
reinvigorate it.
So we won't discount the basement, but I mean, there were many years where that was just, they seemed to want to put the spa where they couldn't put anything else, and it became by default the area, not always enticing. What are you seeing today? What developers are looking for when they want to make sure they have wellness in their programming?
So realistically, it's about nichification or specialization. So I said earlier, this whole idea of conceptualization, all these Asian words. But the whole idea of conceptualization is saying, well, a spa is no longer just a spa. A wellness program is no longer just a wellness program. What is our unique go-to market story that we're trying to tell the audience? So if we are going to be all in on sustainability, then how are we embracing the local biome through material selection, through furniture and upholstering, through the experiences we offer, be it a spa treatment that's using a local skincare product line where everything is locally sourced and traceable, and telling that story and reflecting that throughout the spa space and then throughout the entire brand. Then you have to look at how that touches on F&B, how that touches on fitness, looking at, as an example, a Caribbean small luxury resort where we were, or boutique luxury, where we were trying to reinvent the fitness space and make it an indoor-outdoor, where we invited the plants into the indoor space. So you're getting the benefits of pure air, biophilia, and just a fun space to also have a lounge in to just relax amongst fellow fitness enthusiasts.
Well, that sounds fun. If you're in the islands, you want that island experience. Why not bring it inside?
Yeah, of course. Just had to be cautious of special design, particularly around plants indoors with water, and then SOPs around maintaining those plants. So nuances within there, but realistically, to just generally answer your question, is nowadays there's so much competition in the wellness world that you really need to have a very specific story you're telling. And the word is nichification. What's your niche? How are you going to really embrace that niche from a guest persona basis in terms of how you're targeting people through to how that's executed on each individual technical specification.
So, do you feel like you have to do a lot of education for these developers and owners? Because I'm not sure what they come to the table understanding wellness is or what the opportunity is for them.
Developers and owners are some of the smartest people you'll ever meet. They fully understand this.
Mhm.
What it typically comes down to is costs, because to implement good wellness concepts, the ones that really sing, is very expensive, very expensive. So we have to rein things in. We have to be very creative around our budgets and our budgetary controls in order to push things ahead that are actually going to move the needle in terms of drawing in guests and getting them excited about the product.
So, as you said, that's about the story, right? Because wellness is everywhere. I mean, what makes their story special? How do you help them develop that?
Well, I start with one question with owners and with developers, and that is, close your eyes and tell me, what is the resort or the hotel that you want to build or evolve that your grandkids will be proud of? And you start from there, and then who knows what comes out from there, from the owner's vision. It can be a love of nature, a love of some sort of local species, a love of wine. Wine wellness is a thing. Farming and developing something around agriculture, agri-luxury is a trend. Something about helping people through specific treatments. A hotel owner whose wife had cancer and saying, listen, I want to build a place where people can feel like they can come here and get some relief from that and get actual treatment. That's thinking about what that North Star can be from what the owners will feel proud of and what will guide the owners through the inevitabilities of developers' hell, where you're essentially spending 5 years grinding out 12 hours a day to stabilize a product that will then need constant refurbishment in order to last for 50 to 100 years.
Or be already beyond trend by the time it opens because it's taken so long to get it to market. That is a risk. In some ways, it may be, if you're a hotel property that has incorporated wellness in your build, it might be easier to refurbish or refresh than it is to start over.
It's always easier to refurbish and refresh than it is to deploy new capex, which is risky and particularly in today's construction, for supply as well as labor, it's increasingly costly to build anything new. They're also, again, getting back to that whole idea of nichification. There's an arms race here whereby you can't have a luxury spa now without a lot of very expensive materials, all the marble and everything like that. And you're looking at build costs that are north of $1,000 per square foot. Sometimes,
Mhm.
right? Sometimes it can be, we can value engineer that back to 400 or 300. But in order to meet current design standards and spatial allocations from a gross floor area perspective, you need to be very, very conscious of how you're deploying capital for new spaces, because costs can easily jump to 7 or 8 figures on these things.
Adam, are you finding that you're having discussions with owners and developers about the spa as an area versus wellness woven throughout the property? And could you speak a little about the distinction there?
So a special wellness area, I guess 20 years ago, we would just call that a spa, right? But now
Right.
essentially what happened is people, as wellness started to trend around, let's say 15 years ago, they started subbing one word for the other. But, a dedicated wellness area is essentially what we classically call the spa. However, whether spa is an acronym for, health through water, the Latin term, or whether it's derived from spa, the Belgian town, or as I jokingly say, it was a bunch of old Italians trying to justify their pasta addiction. So spa is actually short for spaghetti. That's just me, but
I love that.
um, yeah. So spa is evolving. It's evolved into wellness. And now, if you think about the integration of the classic spa space, which is water or a hydrotherapy area plus massage for the classic treatment rooms, plus some sort of relaxation and reception area. Now you're seeing that evolve to also include recovery. Whether you define recovery as some form of fitness, some form of mindfulness recovery, so mental recovery, digital detoxing, as well as these whole recovery machines like the red light therapy or the PEMF, the pulse
Mhm.
electromagnetic frequencies, um, or a lot of the other advanced and expensive machines that are out there. So that's how it's evolving, where this whole wellness area can basically be whatever you want it, so long as it's just a dedicated space that people are going to specifically to feel rejuvenated.
Well, we'll get more into the tech side because I know you're big on that, but I'm wondering if you're seeing integration of wellness concepts beyond the designated spa into F&B, into meetings, into the guest room.
Of course, I mean, F&B, nutrition is everything, right? You are what you eat. Food is medicine. And I could tell you some nutritional concepts that would fly in the face of 20th century knowledge and 20th century nutrition. And one of the biggest problems that we have as a hospitality industry is that the classic F&B training coming out of La Roche and École Hospitalière de Lausanne is that they're trained according to an outdated model for what nutrition implies.
Mm.
So you see a lot of chefs where they can prepare a brilliant plate that is gobsmackingly delicious, but not nutritious.
High caloric content.
Remember, thinking in terms of calories is also an outdated model of bioenergetics, right? So, me, when I am healthy and fully recovered from mountains of travel, and I'm working out and sleeping well, if I don't consume 3,500 to 4,000 calories per day, I lose weight. So it's not
Wow.
calories. It's not,
Okay.
yes, calories is a measure of energy burning, but
Mhm.
the hormonal alignment and how much muscle strength you have and things like that will determine how well you're using those calories and directing that energy. So calories in, calories out is a
It's one measure. It's one measure among many, right?
well, yeah, it's just it's no longer valid in its entirety. So that's again another thing that we're changing as we look at nutrition in terms of saying what can we add to the plate that will ramp up somebody's use of energy within the body. And you're seeing terms like I mentioned, bioenergetics, biology plus energetics, pretty easy to understand, but also things like neurogastronomy, which is to say, how can we modify the gastronomy, the specific use of ingredients with the end mood state outcome in mind. And
That's fun.
yeah, it's fun. It's incredibly potent from a revenue standpoint, both for enhancing menu design at a restaurant as well as room service design. So you think about how you can apply neurogastronomy to the room service, understanding that the most common times that room service is applied is for a meal later at night or a private brunch during the day. Those are the two most common times. So therefore, room service from the perspective of neurogastronomy applies directly into sleep as a sleep room amenity in terms of what food can we deliver to the room that will help this person get the best night's sleep possible and help them recover as much as possible.
Further to that food point, I'm wondering if you're in a hotel, nice hotel has a restaurant, you're in the restaurant, and they have some healthy options. Are you seeing those like in the spa or wellness section of the menu, or is it just that the menu is healthy? Like which approach is resonating?
So I have a phrase that I deploy with my own nutritional guidelines and how I talk to people about nutrition. And I help a lot of people on the sidelines with nutrition. I can disagree with somebody's diet, but I never disrespect it. And how that applies to hospitality is we have to accommodate for all people. We can't be selective. So
Mhm.
if we have one restaurant that is like a Mediterranean focused outlet that's open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner with some periodic times to clean up and do some turnaround, we have to have flexibility in the menu. We have some healthy options, but we also have to have that pizza and pasta, burger and fries in order to accommodate somebody who doesn't want a salad. They want the comfort food. They want to have something that they're familiar with because they're already thinking about 20 other things that day and they're stressed out and they just want that. So we have to be accommodating. You can get more selective when you have F&B presentation across multiple outlets. But if it's just that one thing, that one restaurant, that one outlet, you need to be very flexible, and you could have some healthy options and point them out with a select thing on the menu, like a corner or with
Right.
iconography. But you have to accommodate all people as well.
That makes sense. So you have all the options and you let the people who are seeking a healthier for them option, you let them find it. It doesn't have to be pointed out specially. How about in terms of the guest room? What are some things that properties can do to make the guest room more wellness oriented?
Okay, so let's drill down to the big ones, right? So let's look at how the guest experiences the guest room. And this, of course, depends on the type of guest, right? So if you have that corporate traveler who's waking up at 6 a.m., has about 5 minutes of free time before they got to start hammering away at the emails or get in the shower and get ready to go 10 meetings. And then they're, shaking hands all day. And then they're coming back to the room at 9 p.m., totally zonked, and then got to do the same thing, rise and grind the next day, be it corporate or mice, whatever. The most important thing from them from a wellness perspective is intuitive design. They want to go into a room, they want it to be ergonomically friendly. They want the lighting to be circadian adjusted and have intuitive room controls. So that way they aren't scrambling at 10 p.m. to figure out how to turn off that one lamp in the corner.
So often happens. You called it. It's that lamp in the corner.
Horrible, right? I mean, I've had rooms where I couldn't figure out how to turn off like one minor under like ring light underneath the desk, where then I had to like basically close off that entire room.
Or unplug something, or you're piling things up on top of it. Yes, we've all been there.
Yeah, so that's a big one, is adjusting the lighting to make it more circadian and intuitive friendly. That may involve some capex, either replacing some bulbs and, dare I say it, but the most energy efficient bulbs, those OLEDs or halogens that sit across the top, they are not circadian adjusted. They are not your friend after 7 p.m. They're horrible for your lighting setup. I mean, my housing setup here, I have two sets of lights. One is my overhead ones that I use sometimes, and then I have my ones that are circadian adjusted where there is no light past 9 p.m. in my apartment that is above a certain amount of lux, uh, uh, has a blue adjusted color hue, and is above my eye line. So it perfectly imitates the setting sun. Any person who comes into my apartment, my condo, like, you feel it. I turn on those lights, all IoT controlled through my phone on an app, and within half an hour, it's just like you're drifting off, right?
Love that.
Just just the way we used to be 200,000 years ago when we were somewhere in the East Rift Valley in Eastern Africa, and we would be walking around all day, and then it's just boom, you're out.
Sun goes down and you go to sleep. So lighting's a big one.
Lighting is huge. Next is sound. You look at it, and how many hotels have you been to where you like still hear the people next door, whatever they're doing, right? That
Right.
whether you're able to fall asleep or stay asleep, whatever,
or above you.
Yeah, it still is a trigger. It still is something that can cause to pull you out of light sleep or to cause you to get less of a deep restorative sleep. So sound is a big thing, sound buffering, material design is important there. There's some ways to modify an existing product that way that are cheaper, that are some creative solutions, but still some CapEx. And then just returning to that corporate mice traveler, you think about it, you have 5 minutes to do that. They're not a spa goer. Everything they're going to do is in the room. So what can you do in the room? So that you have this lovely amenity in all rooms called tea and coffee. Have you ever used those amenities in the room there?
Ever?
Never, never. Yeah, never.
Never.
Why even think? So it turns out, and this is research shows that coffee and tea, in the absence of cream and sugar, very important, is very good from a health and longevity perspective.
Okay.
Tea and coffee. So how do we make those even better? We can look at things like having better suppliers. So we remove the microplastics out of them and we make them more sustainably sourced. So that way we have a better feel good story, single origin coffee, or ones that we can trace and, don't have any of the mycotoxins that get into coffee. Tea bags using a supplier that doesn't have microplastics or industrial sprays on them, things like that to ramp up the nutrition, offering select tea blends. So not just green tea and black tea, but also herbal teas. Chamomile's great for sleep, peppermint, great for restoring the mouth microbiome, and a whole whack-a-mole of other ones that we can introduce. A great example there, and I know we are going to get to examples, but a great one to look at is the Equinox Hotel New York, where rather than discussing just, what are the components of the tea in terms of saying, well, this has green tea, this has black tea, this has black tea plus bergamot peel, like some Earl Grey blends, etc. This is starting from a functionality. So, a tea blend it just says relax on the tea.
I
It just
love
says,
that. So much easier for people to understand.
yeah, as opposed to the nerds like me that are, trying to find out the specific ingredients and
What hillside the leaf was grown on, you're looking for.
yeah, I'm looking, what part of China did you source your pu'er tea from, and is it legit, so to speak? But that's just me. I'm a longevity nerd like that. For other people, if you have that 5 minutes, it's just like, okay, there's 4 tea bags here. One says awake, one says sleep, one says relax, one says awake +2. Okay, so I'm at night, so I want to do the relax one first, then I want to do the sleep, and then I'll be good. Right?
Mhm.
Let's simplify, simplify, simplify. Let's have it so that way somebody who is really frazzled can figure it out either at the end of the day or the start of their day. So tea and coffee, huge room to improve. The Equinox Hotel also has vegan collagen creamer. So something you can add to your coffee that I do every morning, collagen, which is an incredibly important compound as a supplement for people to take. And then on the note of supplements, if you think about it from a relative value unit point of perspective of time, supplements are still great. Yes, supplements are supplemental. They do not
They're not the whole story. They're meant to augment what you're doing.
exactly. They are meant to augment. But from the perspective of jet lag, if you only have 5 minutes, you don't have time to do a 1 hour breathing exercise that's somewhere on the in-room programming or go down to the spa. You need to pop those melatonin pills and hope that they help you to elongate and reset your circadian clock as you're moving about the globe. Another great supplement that I take when I'm traveling is NAC, N-acetylcysteine, which is a liver detox restorant. It's actually a precursor to glutathione. So it just helps to give you a little bit more recovery as you're going about. And of course, there's good evidence on it from both a mechanistic and an epidemiological or population size study on it. So it works and doesn't necessarily interact with other things. So there's a whole list, hundreds of other ones from a herbal tea and supplement that can be deployed, which are things that can work inside of 5 minutes for that frazzled or rushed corporate slash mice traveler.
So we've got the lighting, the sound, the nutrition. How about the thing we spend most of our time in the room in, the bed?
Yeah. The answer to any question from henceforth is going to be yes, right? Uh, that is incredibly important. Firmness, the linens, so you're not creating a very hot bedding microenvironment. The ties into the HVAC and the climate controls, ties into Wi-Fi signals going through your bed, ties into organic materials and limiting what's called volatile organic compounds, and then balancing all that with the capex of purchasing expensive new mattresses. So the answer is yes for bedding.
You need to have it and it should be comfortable. And the pillow. I like having a pillow selection personally when they have different thicknesses or softnesses and not just all the same.
Right. I mean, yeah, and that depends on the way you sleep, whether you sleep on your side and getting the pillow that can support your neck or your back, all that sort of stuff. And yeah, a pillow concierge is great, but that is a cost, right? Because you need to have somebody to on the other end of that to be the guest service agent that is either controlling that, monitoring inventory, the runners, all that stuff.
Mhm.
It is an expensive thing. And then you think about that frazzled, rushed corporate mice traveler. How are you telling them about that pillow concierge amenity? So that way they know that it's actually there and they have a frictionless way to get the pillows they want, either
Mhm.
through an app.
Before it's bedtime, right?
Exactly, right? So, I mean, great idea, and it's been executed to perfection at the 4-star and 5-star level, but operationally still quite challenging.
So we've created an environment in the spa and in the room, that is oriented to wellness, has wellness options kind of woven in, not that you choose them. But I know that you're very fond of the wellness tech, as am I. So let's go back to that and talk about where and how to integrate these new tech and recovery options into hospitality experiences.
Right. So the number one way that they've been deployed is, of course, in the spa or the wellness center, and they offer a bunch of different applications. The number one way that they've been really deployed is through what's called multimodal experiences, where these wellness technologies, frequency tech, freq tech, or touchless wellness, be it through light, red light therapy, which is a form of photobiomodulation, or other pathways like we discussed the PEMF, and a whole other list of them. They offer multimodal applications. So multimodal is the whole idea of synergy. 1 + 1 = 3. So you give a person a massage, it loosens up some toxins that are resting in the underside of their skin or their muscles, etc. It loosens all that up. And then you put them through some red light therapy that stimulates the skin in a different way and really maybe can get some additional sweating. So to release those toxins through the pores, etc. So 1 + 1 = 3 from the health benefits perspective. The other side of wellness technologies is the labor side of things, whereby
Mm.
because these machines are largely set it and forget it, where they don't require somebody like a masseuse who's constantly applying, constantly in the room with a guest, it means that you can have a guest be set up with these machines, and then you can have that it could be set up by a spa receptionist who then can go back to service guests in the reception area or the lounge area, or can work on somebody in the next treatment room where they're having another uh, wellness technology experience. Um, and from there, if you have a bunch of these different machines that work along different modes of action, you can set up wellness circuits where people are going from red light therapy to PEMF to vibroacoustics to cryo to infrared to halotherapy to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And you're sending on this whole experience based on how much time they have, based on what they're trying to get from an outcome perspective, all those sorts of things.
Adam, wait, do you think that kind of circuit should be extra? Should there be an extra charge for that? Or is it just part of that brand's experience?
Generally speaking, you charge for it
Mm.
because you have significant costs with these wellness
Right,
technologies.
right. Got to recover that.
Yeah, they're not zero labor, right? If you think
Mhm.
about the labor behind them, you have the therapist or the receptionist that has to guide the guest from machine to machine,
Absolutely. Yeah, set it up for them, show them what to do.
the cleaning, the maintenance checks, the management, and not to mention the cost of these machines themselves, whether that cost as a business model is amortized as a subscription service or a straight up purchase of the machine as a CapEx item. And these machines that can be quite expensive, they can be six figures per machine. So you have to be very conscious of the model by which you're bringing these wellness circuits to market. And yes, in most cases, you simply have to charge for them.
Makes sense. So you said earlier you're a longevity nerd. I love that. It's the word of the year, honestly. It's like all we hear about. It's all about longevity. Of course, we want that. I mean, we want to live longer. We want to have health span, not just lifespan. We want to be vibrant for longer. I'm mystified about how we expect to measure that, given that we're not going to see the results of our efforts for many years if it works, right? Ask me when I'm 90 if it worked, I'll tell you. So, what does it mean operationally for a property to say, we're investing in longevity?
It means a lot of things. So yes, there's the promise of the premise, whereby we're not going to see the results for a long time, but there is an increasing amount of data and studies, both in situ, in vitro mechanistic, worms, rats slash mice, monkeys, human trials, longitudinal human data, whether observational or randomized control. Um, a huge amount of data to show what can work from a lifestyle perspective, as well as from specific applications. So, as people are adjusting their lifestyles, they're coming to expect these experiences and demand them from a hotel and understanding that they're buying into the promise of a longer, healthier life if they do XYZ. Yeah, longevity is a buzzword. It is overused, it's misused. Realistically, longevity is right now, it's just a bunch of people that are trying to figure this out and offer solutions to give people more health and um and to really if you think about it, it's not just about health, it's about being the best person you can be. So if you have lower back pain and you can't lift things, therefore you can't help, your parents out around the house, and therefore you're not the best person you can be. If you're not eating properly and you have dysbiosis, we now know that because of the gut brain connection, you therefore will have a more erratic mood, and therefore you're not going to be as kind and as patient and as thoughtful and caring around the people that you're supposed to care about, friends and family. Therefore, you're not the best
Mhm.
person you can be.
You can't be your best self when you don't feel well.
Exactly. Exactly. So we are all collectively buying into this. People are drinking less, they're smoking less, they're wanting less fried foods. People are finally waking up to the dangers of seed oils. People are wanting supplements. People are, wanting a scoop of good quality olive oil with every meal, like Brian Johnson does. We're buying into it, and it's all an individualized journey when we're all discovering different ways to incorporate more and more into our lifestyles on a one-to-one basis based on where we are right now, where we were yesterday, and where we think we can go tomorrow, all according to all the stuff that we call human life. kids, parents, dogs, cats, school, mortgage bills, good bosses, bad bosses, erratic things in geopolitics that we couldn't have predicted 2 months ago. That's life, right? So we're all just stumbling and doing the best we can. And how does that rambling diatribe that I just said relate to hotels? Well, hotels are ultimately, we're hosts, we're caregivers. So we're going to do what we can to evolve our spas into wellness centers and our wellness centers into longevity centers to do the best that we can with the limited amount of time that we have for our guests.
Well, that's a great point. I mean, it makes me think about that the base element of the word hospitality, right? From hospital. I mean, are hotels going to become some kind of their own little health ecosystem instead of just a place to sleep?
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is, if you look at hospitals right now, according to the like Nurse Nightingale design, hospitals are intrinsically unhealthy places.
Mhm.
It's they've done interesting studies where it's like just having the presence of a live plant in the room with a recovering patient increases time to recovery out of the ICU by like 50%.
Amazing.
And yeah, it's amazing. And you see things where you have a bunch of forward thinking people who can deploy a lot of capital towards more thoughtful hospital design, like in Saudi Arabia and UAE, where they're like, listen, we have the money. We're going to build hospitals that really are outcome oriented. And they build these beautiful, beautiful buildings where people can actually recover. And these are hospitals that feel like hotels in a lot of ways. And that's
Mhm.
what we get from a lot of the private healthcare side. And then we see brands that sort of blend the two to be sort of luxury health clinics that are also hotels. Like one that I'm a huge fan of is Lanzerhof in
Me
Germany.
too. Love Lanzerhof.
Incredible, right? And now they're expanding into Marbella. They're going to be deploying probably in the GCC somewhere. They have a clinic in London, but the whole idea there is that it is a luxury hospitality stay with best in class medical care, but with a very specific niche, a very specific story around healing the body from the inside out, starting from the gut, which needs intermittent fasting, supervised detoxing, and super high quality foods. And, just, and then an incredible design,
Mhm.
thermal centers, fitness programming, cultural programming, all built around that core storytelling. And then before you know it, you have a brand that has been known for 50 years for this, has helped countless people. And you have people that are coming back for week-long stays every single year.
I think most of these longevity clinics have very high repeat visits. I mean, they're purpose built, as you said, with all of those things we've talked about: sound and lighting and comfort and nutrition and movement and the physical therapies that are so attractive to people as a destination. Obviously doesn't work as well in an urban environment or a transit or a business hotel. But I know, oh, go ahead, Adam. Go.
No, I mean, not to torture test that idea, right? We have this whole advent that came about during the pandemic called staycations.
Mhm.
So if you think about it, an urban hotel can excel at this if they design a story and a program around staycations, where somebody who is grinding it out in on Wall Street in New York, and they decide to have a staycation at a luxury hotel somewhere in the city, where they have a longevity center, and they're put through an integrated wellness stay that over, let's say, 2.5 days, they can get some solid restoration and then take the subway back home.
Very true. Very true. It is an overlooked opportunity. Thank you for sharing that. Well, I know that you see wellness as a major revenue opportunity in hospitality. Can you speak to what you see? What are some operational mistakes that operators should try to avoid?
To sum it all up, half measures, right? you have to go all in on this. And we're talking about Lancerhof, we're talking about Clinique La Prairie or Chanel. That all these places have guests coming back for massive LOS, massive TRevPAR, and the customer lifetime values through the roof. All that is going around the phrase "health is the new wealth." So if you are to embrace this term, "health is the new wealth," you have to embrace it at a systematic level, a systemic level. So you can't just have a program where you launch a spa and then you set it and forget it. No, you got to develop a quarterly process around reviewing that, seeing how you can improve, bringing new ideas to the table, understanding how those ideas can be woven into your existing framework and budget. You need to look at wellness across every single operation, including your own team's health, the HR perspective. We haven't touched on that because it is kind of all for naught if you have a program for guests, but you're not also allowing your team, your associates to partake in that. There's a new term out there called brain capital, which is about how much brain power your team has and how you can protect and grow that. It will measure, protect, and grow. And the whole idea there is like, look, the limiting commodity in the future for hospitality is going to be your teams, as it always has been. So you need to have wellness and longevity programs for your teams in order to keep those teams intact and to incentivize employees over the long term.
No, that's very true. We've seen that put into practice at Mandarin. Mia Kirikos did it at Hyatt. I mean, we're expecting our people to take care of the guests. We need to take care of them.
Of course, right? It's happy team, happy guests, or a bunch of phrases around that, right? But even something like going back to what we were talking about with WellTech is how do you expect to sell these wellness circuits if your team isn't educated
Mhm.
on them and hasn't experienced them and experienced their benefits so they can sell from the heart?
Very true. They need to try it as well. I mean, do you have a day or a time of day when it's open to the team members?
Depends on how you can structure it. I mean, typically in a pre-launch, you'd have the whole team in to come in and experience it and torture test it to iron out those operational kinks, to offer feedback, not only on the experience themselves and how to sell it, but also anything like, oh, we need more towels here, or, oh, MEP missed a spot here, so there's going to be water accumulation here. Or, oh, guests may ask these sorts of questions, so we got to update our FAQ knowledge base on the website. Things, all those operational kinks, you could do that in the pre-opening or any sort of, off day, or, you could close the spa for a day. I mean, the whole,
Performance rewards for them.
yeah, the whole idea with off hours is, of course, when you're dealing with wellness practitioners, they may have families and all that. So you can't really schedule these things at 9 p.m. at night.
No. So, Adam, what wellness trends do you see shaping hotel operations in the next 10 years? Anything come to mind?
First off, well, we touched on neurogastronomy, right? Which is to say that pretty much everything, sorry, I don't want to say everything, but a lot of what we were told in the 20th century about nutrition is flat out wrong
Mm.
or is impeding us in various ways. So there is a huge opportunity for making gains in the nutrition camp and then telling a hotel's wellness story through the tutelage of food as medicine. Neurogastronomy is one such application of that, where we're starting from desired mood or cognitive outcome and then working backwards to ingredients and then mapping that according to the individualization of menus. There's probably a little bit of AI in there. Ooh, AI, but
Yeah.
realist.
We managed to make it almost all the way through without mentioning AI. Good for us.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I'm a little piece of me. I'm rolling my eyes inside, right? So neurogastronomy, a sister sibling from that, is another complex portmanteau called agrobiodiversity.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a huge trend that is seldom understood, but it could very well save the planet. And let me unpack this.
Sure.
So right now you go into the grocery store and you want corn, right?
Okay.
Good old classic corn. All the corn on there is a white corn varietal with very limited genetics that is miles away from the original land race of corn, the Tesonate, that the original ancestors of the Mayan and Aztec people hybridized and
Right.
domesticated starting around, let's say, 13,000 to 16,000 BC. So what we've done with corn, with apples, with oranges, with wheat, with avocados is we've narrowed the genetic diversity down to a select group of cultivars that are designed for scalability
Sure.
and transportability for our globalized supply chain. That accumulation and aggregation around a select and narrow group of genetics puts us into a tail risk for superbugs. A single bug that is either bacterial or fungus or parasite that is all powerful, immune to pesticides, immune to herbicides, and it ravages one of these crops.
That would be very bad.
Would be very bad, and it's already happening. There is a superbug that was somewhere in Central America. Somebody brought a plant from Central America back to Italy, and it got into the soil and started impacting olive trees in Puglia. I don't want to go too far into the mechanics of this pathogen, but basically they had to start torching fields of 2,000 to 3,000 year old olive trees in Puglia.
Terrible.
And you think those are olives, right? These are, bar none, any study you show, olives are one of the healthiest things to consume, right? And not only that, but it's the core of Italy. These are trees that Julius Caesar planted because that's how long an olive tree grows, lives for. And also it's part of the experience because people aren't going to southern Italy to see scorched fields. They're in part, they're going there to have a small boutique luxury resort that is a converted monastery, converted church, whatever, that is surrounded by olive groves. That's an incredible experience, and we're denying people of this. So these superbugs, they are already existing. If not, they will in the near future. And agrobiodiversity is the solution, whereby we introduce more genetic variety across all of the species, as well as new species, and then we offer these as experiences. So going back to Yunnan province in China and finding the original land races of the orange, mandarin, and bergamot, and then growing them, transporting them, growing them as part of an orange grove, and then putting them on the plate. That is tremendous. And I've seen agrobiodiversity deployed at resorts, where resorts will have organic farms that incorporate harder to grow land races, or hotels can sponsor heritage farms that are doing this, and then developing culinary experiences around this. Just either having it as part of a tasting menu or a cooking class, teaching people how to use weirder fruits and vegetables, as well as weirder pedigrees of livestock. It also applies to animals as well. So neurogastronomy, agrobiodiversity, both as experiential and to help save the planet from superbugs. And if I wanted to throw a third one in there for food, it would be invasivorism. So an invasivore is a plant or animal or fungi that through our globalized supply chain has been accidentally introduced into a foreign ecosystem where they have no natural predators.
Like rabbits in Australia.
Exactly, right? So invasivorism is not just about putting these invasivores on the menu. It's about reorienting the system to incentivize the consumption and um, and rebalancing of these ecosystems. So it's great to say, as that Australian example, oh, we're going to put rabbits on the menu. Okay, great. Who's your supplier, right? Do you have line cooks who know how to take apart a rabbit, right? How are you using the pelts? All that stuff, right? So thinking systemically from almost a scope 3 perspective about how we are how we are reorienting and rebalancing our environments, starting from the inside out about what we're putting on the menus, and if there's a health component to that, but still telling a good story from sustainability from this whole buzzword around invasivorism. So
Well,
that's
fascinating.
just food, right?
That is just food, but fascinating concepts to think about. And I thank you for sharing that. I'm also thinking if I ever invite you for dinner, I'm going to have to really do my homework before you come over. I have,
Don't even try. We're just I remember I'm a Virgo longevity nerd, so I have databases on all these different species that we should be putting on the plate. So it's like I'll just call out and go, yeah, you have this one, but you didn't do this one. Blah 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 blah.
don't have you for dinner, is what you're saying. It would be easier.
No, I mean I'll still take a free dinner.
Okay, that works. One last question for you, Adam, to look through your hospitality lens. If a guest is checking out of a hotel 5 years from now, how should they feel if the property has really integrated wellness well into operations?
So where we're going with all this is feeling better than when you arrived,
Mm,
right? So that's number one, feeling better than when you arrived. But that's such a ambiguous term, right? I mean, what is feeling better?
yeah, what is better? Right.
Yeah, what is better? So the way I break that down is there's the well-being perspective, i.e., they had a good time, they met some cool people, they had some good meals and all that stuff. So well-being. Then there's the biochemical side of things, like saying, "Hey, we tuned this guy up. We eliminated toxins. We improved their blood. We filtered out some liver enzymes and all that stuff." So more of the nerdy, um, pathophysiological level. And then the third element is inspiring them to be better back at home. So the transformational side is saying, well, okay, we've made them feel better in from a well-being perspective. We made them feel better from a mechanistic standpoint, but we want them to keep going and keep progressing even when they aren't here. So what takeaway lessons have we given them in order for them to reflect upon their experience and to then set them on a path of continual renewal? So sort of those three pillars.
That's a great concept, Adam, because you think about, well, we took care of them while they were here, but the last most important thing, education, right? Letting them leave having learned something that helps them to maintain that lifestyle that they aspire to once they've left the hotel. And it makes any investment per night seem worth it when you look at it through that lens.
Of course, right? I mean, what is the value of purchasing a book off Amazon, right? On paper, it's $30, $40. But if you get one life lesson that will last you 60 years out of that, I mean, the relative value on reading that book is astronomical. And, this is one thing you learn when you read biographies of any successful person, starting with Warren Buffett and then down the list of anything. One of the commonalities amongst all of them is that they're all avid readers. So again, education is priceless, or at the very least, over a 1 to 2 night stay, the inspiration to pursue education, so to say, the kernel of it, right?
You made me think quickly about those hotels that have libraries or have somewhere I was recently, I don't recall, but they had books in the room. like hardback books in the room, a few books that you could choose from, not to take with you necessarily, but to read when you were there. And, even if you don't, it makes you think you should be. And I love that little reminder.
Yeah, but books are wellness. Education is
Mm.
wellness. Libraries are wellness. It's all, again, it boils down to what story you want to tell. There's a small brand in New York called the Library Hotel Collection. And what do you think their theme is, right?
I would think books wouldn't factor into that.
Yeah, and they do a really good job at it. It's very, very wild, very fun, small group of hotels.
Well, Adam Mogilonsky, thank you so much for joining us and for helping us paint the picture of the hotel in the future, which I want to stay in. Any listeners who want to get in touch with Adam can find him at hotelmogul.com, MOGEL. And he's pretty active on LinkedIn with lots of good articles, so check him out there. Thanks again for joining us today, Adam.
Yeah, just a delightful conversation. We could go for another 2 hours, but
We probably could. We'll have to have part two.
yeah. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, you. Be well.